Okay, so here's a good question. Do you need to include your home address on your personal business cards? Very good question. I would say that's a really tough one. I usually have my clients not put their address on their personal business cards. I actually would want them to put together an online resume and give a short web address on the business card that takes you to an online resume where then you can put all of your contact information. I really firmly believe that on a business card you should have your LinkedIn profile, you should have your cell phone, home phone or business phone number, certainly the job title you're looking for, especially if you're unemployed. You don't have to put where you had worked, but the job title you're looking for, and your email address. So as far as I think that might be a little bit of information overload if you put your home address, because I don't know that people are going to be using that. If you have a link to an online resume, which increases your online presence, but very quickly gives them, if you give them a business card, gives them a link to your full resume, and there is where you can put your total address. Okay, so the next question I have is, should you include your address and phone number on your resume? This too could limit phone calls if you're out of the area. Very good question. If you're out of the area and you're targeting another area, that means I'm assuming that you're wanting to move into that area. I think that at that point in the summary statement, you should put, I am moving to, for instance, if you're in Kansas City, you're moving to Atlanta. You can say at the end of your summary statement, I'm moving to Atlanta in August 2011, and I'm very interested in talking with you about how I can affect the bottom line of your company, something like that. And that way they understand you're going to be local, and it's okay to put your address if you're not local on there. I think that if you don't have if you have an outside or a P.O. box, if you have an outside address, sometimes they're hesitant to call you because they don't want to pay moving expenses. But if you very briefly show them in your summary statement that you're going to be moving to that area, then they're assuming, hey, I don't have to pay expenses, and they're more likely to give you a call. So Will in Kansas City also says, regarding personal information, does that also apply to activities, civic organizations, or boards that you may sit on, like the Kansas City Chamber, ECD boards, etc.? Very good question, Will. My answer to that is it depends on how relevant it is to the job that you're looking for. If you're looking for a leadership position and you chair a board, then I think that it's important to put, but I like to put that in the pieces of the paragraphs of achievements. So I don't like to have a separate section of civic organizations or boards. I think that what's more important is that you tell them that you chair or that you belong to civic organizations or belong to, I did this recently for a client, for instance, has sat on 9 board of directors in local communities and has chaired 5. So that shows that there's some leadership experience there. But it doesn't get into the details because they don't necessarily want the details. That's the kind of stuff that you can put on an online resume. You can also put it on your LinkedIn profile. So keep in mind that this document that you're sending them is the 30-second commercial. You just have to compel them to get that phone call or compel them also to look on LinkedIn or to do a Google search and find you that way. That's where you can put that additional information. I consider the resume to be, like I said, a 30-second commercial. I consider LinkedIn and your online resume to be a 30-minute infomercial. You can give a lot more information. You can pad that information with a lot more detail if you do it on LinkedIn and online, because you really just want a highlight on the one-pager. So let's go ahead and go back to some additional things, the characteristics of a good resume. I'm glad that I was able to answer those questions. If you do have to leave at the top of the hour, this will certainly be recorded, so we can I can send this to you afterwards. So the 7 characteristics of a good resume, I wanted to give you that information. Like I said before, the resume should ideally be 1 page in length, and I would invite you to open up that the resume that I put on my website for Glenn Achiever, which is a district sales manager resume. He's a current client of mine. You'll see that at the top, the job you want needs to be listed. And that needs to be a job title and not just, for instance, sales professional. And I say that because an employer, when you send this to them, an employer needs to know what you're looking for and at what level. Because I've seen a lot of resumes that don't have a job title up there. And I understand you're sending it in for specific jobs that you see online. I'm not a big fan of doing that. I'm a big fan of sending it to the right people within the right companies, of the companies that you want to work for. And when you do that on a proactive basis, they need to know what you're looking for. So, for instance, with Glenn, he's looking for a district sales manager. He's not looking for a regional VP. He's not looking to be an individual contributor salesperson. So it says exactly at what level he wants to be at. And then your resume needs to be scanning ready with keywords related to the jobs that you want. And I put those under the job title. I've got on here relationship development, entrepreneurial experience, he takes strategy to action, those types of things. That's what employers are looking for in a district sales manager, and those are the things that are his strengths. I've seen, like I said prior to the break in the call, I've seen a lot of people who list a dozen, sometimes a dozen and a half different strengths, narrow it down to those 2 lines, if you will, sometimes 6 or 7 or 8 different things that give somebody very quickly some additional information about what sets you apart. The first third of your resume, or a little more, needs to be a summary statement, a very compelling summary statement. It needs to read like ad copy, and that's how I write it, like advertising copy. I have found, especially over the last 3 years, that the more aggressively I write the sales information, I call it sales, it's sales copy. So the more aggressively that I write that summary statement, the more phone calls my clients get. And I also do it in first person so that it's telling a story. I can tell you that the resume speak that most people do, which is it's not first person, it's not third person, it's just incomplete sentences. The brain actually has to switch that to complete sentences in your mind before you actually understand it. So let people read it easier by giving it first person. Also, I think that the resume needs to avoid revealing or at least minimizing those liabilities that I talked about earlier. And your resume has to sell your transferable skills. I believe it has to define you. And then it must present a first-class image. You really got to show, that means no typos. You'd be surprised how many, even C-level employees, chief operating officer, even CEO, chief financial officer, a lot of them have typos in it. Have somebody proofread it if you're not doing a good job yourself.
Well, and the other thing, Tammy, I'm sure is the fact that a lot of folks, use spell check, and so sometimes when you use spell check, spell check is not designed to look for those typos per se, so you really need to get another set of eyes. Now I know that you sent out an example of a type of resume that you usually write. Could you describe for us the different components of your resume and why you include the things you do?
Yeah, Let's talk about that. So I went through. We've got your contact information up top, and now I'm looking again at the Glenn Achiever PDF. We've got district sales manager. We talked about that. The 2 lines underneath that, and then the very compelling summary statement. I like at the end of the summary statement to put a call to action. And that's a marketing term. That means tell your reader what to do. And if you know anything about direct marketing or direct mail, when you see a direct mail piece that says you need to do this, call today or write back to me today or email us today, something like that. that's a call to action, and it really does increase the likelihood of getting a response. So, for instance, with Glenn here, I said, if these describe your company, let's have a conversation about what my abilities can do for you, which is a very soft sell way of saying, call me. So underneath that, I like to put 3, possibly 4 core strengths. I come up with those core strengths after looking at someone's entire career and looking at their achievements, outlining those. And I do a lot of the quantification work first with the clients, and the 3 or 4 core strengths I come up with at the very end. So those really are, how have you accomplished the achievements that you've accomplished? So with Glenn, we've got, and also what sets you apart. What makes you different than the next guy? He's got some really strong sales leadership experience. He provides consistent growth in profitability, not just revenue, but really profitability, because what sets him apart is that in down times, if the revenue growth isn't there, he's been able to cut costs to maintain or even grow profitability. And then thirdly, he's able to really motivate key players to influence the bottom line. So in other words, he's very good at performance management. So 3 or 4 really good core strengths. Underneath there are some additional key skills. You can use those. I like to use those to help more round out someone's definition, someone's brand. You can use those also if there's a particular job that you're looking for that you see it consistently in the job descriptions. These things, you can put those into key skills too. Underneath that, I like to put the education so that the education's in the middle of the page so that it's not minimized at the bottom, and this helps specifically if you have advanced education too. Underneath that, I list selected accomplishments. Notice I have taken the 3 bullet points from above and I have put them under selected accomplishments so that now we have really what's essentially 3 buckets that I can put all of the achievements that this person accomplished. So I don't make it different than the 3 above. Really what I'm saying is, hey, this guy's got strong sales leadership experience, so I'm going to show examples of how he's been a strong sales leader. Also, he's provided consistent growth and profitability. So I'm going to put examples of how he has increased profitability and not just revenue. And then finally, having strategic influence on the bottom line by motivating key players and showing that. And then at the very bottom, almost like a footnote, you've got the career summary, which for him, he's only been at his present job since 2009. So that minimizes that a little bit. If you have had a lot of jobs over the last 10 years, this is great because the career summary just brings that down to the very bottom. It doesn't initially brand you as a job hopper per se, so that you can sell yourself from the top part of the page so that by the time they've gone down to the very bottom career summary, they're already pre-sold on giving you a phone call. So it's really important to put it in this order so that that career summary is at the very bottom, minimizing anything that might be shown as an obstacle to getting you a phone call at the bottom, so that those accomplishments, and especially that summary paragraph up top, really sways them before getting down there.